What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the Kunwu Knives Chad. Now, this is in via the Lefty passaround group as part of the package with the Chad and the Shocker, which if you guys caught yesterday's video, it was my full review of my new favorite Kunwu model. Fantastic knife, and we are moving on to review another fantastic knife. I have had the Chad in before. This is the second time I've handled it. But if you guys caught my unboxing of this knife, these knives, I mentioned that I had this in right before I went on my honeymoon, and with the wedding and the honeymoon, I got married on a Saturday, and we left on the following Tuesday for our honeymoon, and I just had way too much stuff going on, so I wasn't able to get full reviews filmed and set and ready to go before we had to leave for our honeymoon, so I just ended up filming like 5 little minute-long short reviews. They didn't do too well, so I'm glad to have it back in and to put it through its true paces and give it a true score in my review system. But yeah, coming in from Kunwu, who is a Chinese OEM. Kunwu is they've been around for a few years, but they were relatively new OEM to the EDC world a couple years ago, and I first found out about them from Kevin over at EDC, which is of course where these two came from. But it's all started with the Tau, which was a Kickstarter for like $130 for M390 titanium. Basically take this blade off, and it was very similar to this this handle, except for like the X bar lock. Yeah, and it all just kind of stemmed from there, and they've been producing pretty good products ever since. I'm a fan of them. I've never personally bought from them to have in my own collection, but I think I've reviewed, it's probably the 4th or 5th model from them so far, and everything I've handled has been really well done. The Chad, the first version, this is I believe the orange peel titanium. The first version was the diamond plated or diamond textured titanium, which is really good. I really like that one, but this one is very, for being more of a kind of plain Jane simple design, or spec, it's very nice. So we're going to jump right into the review here with some specs and some materials. But as far as materials go, you guys can see it has a beautiful sheep's foot style blade. Very thin edge with a flat grind up until here when you have a swedge bolt in. You don't have thumb studs, but you have thumb discs, both sides with some texturing on them. You guys can see right there it says Chad. It has a crossbar style lock. I forget what Kunwu calls theirs, if there's a specific name. It's hard for me to keep them in track. But nice pivot on both sides. Milled titanium pot clip that is reversible, lefty or righty. You can also get wire clips for these, I believe. Standoffs on the back. There is no internal milling, which you can definitely feel. It is a little bit hefty. But overall, I mean, it's a very solid knife with very solid materials. The blade steel is also what kind of takes you off guard a little bit, because this is not a blade steel I'm familiar with at all. This is the only knife that I know has this blade steel in a production knife. But it is PM60, which you guys can see. I mean, it's right up there in the corner. I don't know if my camera's going to pick it up or not. But PM60, I don't know much about it. I'm not a steel snob by any means. I'm pretty chill with most steels. So I don't know how this compares to, say, M390, S90V, 20CV, LMAX, things like that. Kunwu has used LMAX and M390 in the past, but PM60, I believe it has a really well documented either hardness or edge retention, or both of them. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so titanium, orange peel scales, milled clip that is reversible, beautiful sheep's foot style blade, and a pretty cool steel that is, again, not something you see very often. Thumb discs and a crossbar style lock for, for the price you get, and for materials, I'm going to give it a 5. As far as specs go, so overall length from tip to butt is 8.07 inches. You have a blade length of 3.77 inches. You guys know that's a big knife for me. I typically, don't prefer anything over 3.5. So big knife for Alex. Cutting blade length of 3.3 inches. Handle thickness of 0.48 inches. Blade thickness of 0.12 inches. So it's PM60. The HRC is 66 to 69, so it has a very high Rockwell hardness, which is really, really cool. So it's very, very, very tough. It's a stonewash blade, titanium handle, and it comes in at 4.76 ounces. And you can definitely, like I said, feel every bit of it. I really would have wished that they put, excuse me, they would have had, some milling on the liners on the inside just to give it some weight reduction, maybe get it closer to 4 ounces. I think it would be that much better in a pocket. It's not like, it doesn't really hinder your carry much at all. But like I said, it just definitely has, I guess it leans on the better side of weightiness because it feels really good in the hand, but it definitely has some heftiness to it. And there are other variations of this available. Like I said, there are PVD coated blades. There is the diamond texture titanium handle scales. There are carbon fiber scales. I'm not sure 100% what all is out there available. I will leave a link to Kunwu's website down below. This version is currently out of stock. I don't know if they're planning on making more. Kunwu is kind of known for making a batch or a drop and then moving on to something else. So I don't know if it'll ever be made again. But I will still leave a link down below to you guys. But yeah, moving on. Next up is aesthetic. I think this knife looks fantastic. You guys know I love a good sheepshead style blade. This looks like an eagle's beak or something. It just looks beautiful. Very, very nice tip down here. Beautiful straight cutting edge. Overall, I think this just looks really good. Again, it's pretty straight from here across. Aside from this kind of indentation right here, it's pretty straight from here the whole way on the bottom. And you guys know I love my simple knives. Simple, simplistic lines is what calls to me. And I think this looks very, very simple and clean and fantastic. So it's going to get a 5 out of 5 on the aesthetics. Next up is the action. Now, again, I'm not sure 100% what Kunwu calls their crossbar style lock knives. And it has a really good, action. It's typically close to what an Axis style lock feels like. I don't know if the springs in here are upgraded from Omega springs or if they're very, very similar. Again, I should have probably looked up into that and whatnot, but the detent does feel a little bit kind of light here, but as long as you give it enough gas, you're going to get the knife out 100% of the time. Middle finger flick, excuse me, thumb flick. Oops. The thumb discs are okay. I'm not the biggest fan of thumb discs in the world. I typically prefer thumb studs. They just are easier to use. They are just easier to actuate. I think they look better. But, this one is probably some of the easier thumb discs I've used. Excuse me. Flies out with the middle finger, drops down, flies out with the thumb, drops down. Very, very smooth close. You guys can see just pulling it back, it just drops. And if you pull it back and let it go of it quick enough, or at the right time, it'll, house itself like most Axis style lock knives do. But it just drops. You can slow roll it out. I think the detent could be a little bit better because I feel like you do, as long as you're paying attention, you will fire it out every single time, but you can definitely fail it. Like you guys can see, I'm just kind of flicking it out, just kind of give it some meh. It's not coming out the whole way, but you give it a little bit more gas and it does. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 because I think it does need, I'm going to give it a 4 because the detent is a little soft, a little bit mushy, but other than that, it still functions very well. It has a great drop. I just wish maybe the springs were a little bit more finely tuned or a little bit stronger to get, that great action. But it's almost a 4-inch blade, so you're going to get fantastic drop, and it's very smooth. No blade play at all, and you're still getting that drop shot action. So I think a 4 is fair in the action department. Acoustics. Good thwack, good snap on the open. Close is kind of, mediocre. Just doesn't really do anything, I guess, for me. It doesn't really move the needle too much with this knife. It's not bad by any means, but you guys know, especially when I have these titanium knives, I'm looking for that high pitchness, and this is just getting pretty much the opposite of that. It's just real dull. And I still like that. I just look for, that really nice high-pitched tings with titanium knives. So I'm going to give it a 3.5. That's kind of my typical run-of-the-mill, still good enough to be satisfying, but not good enough to really merit more of a score than that. So it's going to get a 3.5 on the acoustics. Next up is ergos. This knife is super duper comfortable, fits my hands so well. And like I said earlier, harking back to the simple designs, simple blade shape, simple handle shape. When things are simple like that, they tend to turn into a really, really good ergonomic performer, and the Chad is definitely that. Again, straight line from here to back. It does have a rounded edge back here with a little bit of a tip, but it's pretty much a straight line from here up to this natural restriction point, indentation point, and you have a choke up point. Choked back in my normal grip, pointer finger right in here into this indentation. Rest of your fingers follow suit. Your thumb lands right up here on the jimping, or it can land up even farther. But typically, sorry, I don't know, I'm having a scratchy throat. But typically, my thumb lands right here. Very, very comfortable. The pot clip is a milled clip, sits very flush to the scale, not causing a hot spot or anything. And it's a pretty wide clip, so it's pretty, evens itself out. I like when clips are a little bit wider, because if it happens to have any sort of discomfort, any sort of edges, things like that, having a wider clip can allow that to kind of, travel over your hands a little bit better, and just it's a little bit easier on the hands than skinnier clips. But very, very comfortable. Choked up, plenty of room, even choked back, excuse me. I have all 4 fingers on here, very, very comfortable. Choked up, if you're gonna be doing push cuts, your thumb can land the whole way out here. This blade shape is great for it because you just have that straight edge down here, and it just gives it plenty of edge space to just eat through things. But the titanium is really nicely milled and rounded and contoured in the right areas. Down here by the edges in this chamfering area, there are some micro milling, which is nice, as well as along here. It's gonna be hard to pick up on my camera, but just a nicely milled knife, which makes an ergonomic, performer perform well. So it's getting a 5 out of 5 for the ergos. Next up is carry. I'm gonna have to dock it a little bit because it is a little heavy. The clip is milled, so you pretty much have about that much sticking up out of your pocket, which isn't bad. I would definitely probably prefer the wire clip because you can just really get that deepness amount to it, so I would look at getting one of those. But the fact that it came with the milled clip, so I have to, of course, review it with the milled clip. Not that much, and it doesn't bother me that much. It really, the clip works and functions well. Has the Kunwu logo chilling right there. Down in your pocket, you have no jimping, sharp edges, anything like that down here to worry about, possibly pulling the knife out of your pocket when you're down below, getting changed. Chapstick things are floating beneath it. I had no issues with it. I do not carry this in shorts too much because it is a little bit too big for, I believe, gym shorts or khakis, from a length standpoint as well as a weight standpoint. So I didn't carry it with that. I just carried it with jeans. I did throw it in sweatpants a few times when I've been around the house, but that hasn't been too much because it's been pretty nice here. So I've been in gym shorts. But as far as carry goes, it being a little weighty, and I would prefer the milled clip. It is a little bit bigger than what I typically carry, but at least it does come down to a nice slim function, form of function. I'm going to give it a 4. I think that's fair on the carry department. But next up is price point / value and what I recommend this knife. So Kunwu has a pretty diverse catalog nowadays, and I think if you guys are a fan of this knife and a fan of this blade shape, a fan of this, the Axis style lock, and you guys are a fan of Kunwu, any sort of that combination, I can absolutely recommend this to you. I think it's a good, a good value. Kunwu, very similarly to Tuya, is consistently, coming in with great values, great blade materials, great blade steels, great handle materials, good action, good fit and finish. It's sub $300. So when the Chad was sold, like I said, it's currently out of stock. It was last sold for $259. So I think that's a great deal. And you were getting, again, 8 inches of knife, almost 4 inches of blade, comfortable handle scales. Aside from a, sort of mushy D10, it's pretty solid action overall. You can definitely fidget with this quite a bit. And that blade shape is just so usable, so, EDC friendly. Just drop it into packages, ripping through labels, anything you need to throw at it, it's going to handle it super well. So I think from a value standpoint, it's going to get a 5. I don't have much to complain at all from it, except for I would just rather have the wire clip, and I wish it was a little bit less, less heavy, and maybe a little bit, maybe with having some cutouts on the inside, which would allow some more acoustics to come from that. So it would all kind of go hand in hand together. But yeah, I think a 5 out of 5 on the value, price point. Would I recommend this knife category is very, very fair. Let me count this up real quick for you guys. Alrighty, guys. So the Kunwu Chad is getting a 31.5 out of 31.5 out of 35, which lands it in the great category. I think that's very fair. I do think this is a great knife. It's missing a few small little points from it being a fantastic knife. So I'm happy with how it landed. I think it's very, very adequate, and a lot of people are going to love this knife. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to check it out again and kind of, again, revisit it, make a review for you guys for your, for your viewing pleasure, for your, for informational purposes. But yeah, so I'm going to wrap this up now, but drop a comment down below. Do you guys have any other Kunwu models? Do you have the Chad? If you do, love to hear what you guys have to say, but I'm going to wrap this up now. So this was my final review. My full review of the Douchey. I am so all over the place, guys. I apologize. This was my full review of the Kunwu Knives Chad. Huge shout out to Kevin over at Lefty EDC for always providing dope stuff for us to check out. I love you, Kev. But I love all you guys as well. So hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your morning, evening, night, weekend, whenever you guys are watching this. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.